Hey everyone, this is Rangadad. Not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. It's just my daily scan before I start the day. Um, so we ended up closing above that 9 EMA on the daily, which typically will lead to more upside. I did mention that I think it was in the Discord. Basically, said possible pullbacks into the 96,500, 95,800. We went a little bit lower than that. A little bit surprising that we did. It was just sort of the liquidation levels that I was using. So obviously, more liquidations can come in as you pull back. Model 1 was the one I was using. So I was expecting at that stage when we closed up above that 9 EMA, which was at about 97,400, a little bit above. Basically, I expected it to come into here at least. And that area was the point of control as well. So we slipped through that. I thought I actually had an order in there for a long, basically 95,800. And when it bounced from there, I thought, yeah, okay, should be over. So interesting and a little concerning that it's actually decided to, looks like it wants to actually come into this level a little bit more. But I do kind of expect it to go back up after that. We haven't taken out any real short liquidations for a while. I think there will be a short squeeze that comes relatively soon. I think there's going to be a lot more people piling into shorts. It's just when Bitcoin does this, when it does sweep long liquidations, it can flash crash. So it's a little bit on edge at the moment. I think it did pull up and take out this little liquidation block, but a little surprised that it hasn't come up a bit higher than that. There are a lot of longs coming into the system though. The bulls are not dead yet, but it's doing its best to try and kill them. So yeah, what I thought would happen would, we'd pull into this level and then pull away, especially in a US session that's actually gone up. So let's have a quick look here. This could be just another fake out to try and suck some more longs in, some more shorts into the system. There is a lot of bids coming through on the bid-ask delta. So, and look, throughout this whole thing, we're putting in higher lows on the cumulative volume delta, at least on futures. On spot volume, it's not. So it's a little concerning. You want spot volume to kind of pick up at the same time. Yeah, it's looking very dicey at the moment. CVD perpetuals on Binance. I don't know why this didn't load properly. Yeah, we haven't hit a major low since then. Like nothing compared to that. That was a pretty good low there, though. So I think whatever comes here should be putting in another low, decent low on the funding rates. It's just whether that's all that we've got at the moment. Alts have been holding reasonably well too, so I'll have a look at that in a sec. But um, yesterday there was a little bit of a pullback in the sentiment index for smart money, and looks like dumb money's sort of flat. Smart money will start to drop back as prices rise, but it's interesting that smart money is making lower highs here. Smart money is not expecting any massive runs, from what I can tell. They load up on the pullbacks if they think there's going to be a decent upside. They loaded up here. There was a bit of a pump, but they're not loading up as much at the moment. I think they're waiting for something bigger. So, as I said, the last couple of days, it looks like smart money is selling into retail at the moment. Retail's never been this leveraged long on the markets. FX Evolution had some stats on that yesterday. That's concerning. And that's why it looks like we're getting this sort of rotation that we're getting now. A couple of big orders down here. No massive sells. Like one decent sized sell, but nothing compared to the buyers. So we may still get a little upside. Let's go into the daily. Just want to see what they're doing. Could be a little buy there. They're buying the dip. Selling the rip, though, that's the problem. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of interest still in further upside. Not huge, but a little bit of support. So the last 7 days, Coinbase has actually done pretty well. I don't know if Coinbase is actually... oops. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Coinbase is doing okay. Did it have earnings? Looks like earnings should be after the bell. I mean, that's a good sign for Coinbase. Sorry, just reading the headlines there. Yeah, Coinbase earnings will be interesting. Moving up into earnings, typically not a great sign, but yeah. If Coinbase gets spanked on earnings, then I'd say it's not going to look great for Bitcoin, but so there we go. Just go back and finish off this one. But yeah, Coinbase has had some bids that have led to upside, so not seeing anything major come through at the highs yet. Marathon Digital, same sort of deal. It's looking okay. So staples are still getting bought up. XLE, so energy's having a little bit of a bounce here. That's not a bad sign. But what it is suggesting is that money's flowing into defensive. So utilities are up for the week. A little bit of take profit potentially up here. But even XLY, so consumer discretionary is even having a little bounce here. So with sweeps around the bottom. So we could actually be getting ready for a little blow off top on the markets, which should see Bitcoin go on a run as well. Even XLK, so technology. Have a quick look at financials. I don't think it's up. Yeah, financials getting a lot of bids around the bottom here. So yeah, a lot of interest around the bottom. I think we're actually getting ready for a little pump on the markets. hopefully this is the last flush before upside on Bitcoin, and it should do it within the next couple of hours. Quick look at Ethereum here. Ethereum's just following Bitcoin. I think that massive. Sol's got a lot of liquidity to the upside in the short term. Potentially, if it goes up from here, though, it's going to leave a bit of liquidity below. XRP's holding okay. Got a bit either side. Sui's got most of it. Could come into here though, into 336. These things here are what you want to see. You want to see decent liquidity up above. What's the other one? LTC has been going interesting. This pullback here is not a great sign from a previous high level. Hopefully it doesn't try and get back to that. If LTC is coming back to that, then I'd say Bitcoin's done. Yeah. What else we got? Look at H bar. Pulled back and sucked up a lot of liquidity as well. Again, lots of shorts coming in at the top there. Oh. If it's come back into these and it likes that amount of liquidity, then you'd think it would like this amount as well. So there's reasons to go up in the charts. Let's put it that way. So what's Bitcoin done today? Well, we had a pretty convincing close above that 9 moving average. And typically, when I look back at this through history, as soon as we close above that 9 EMA after we've been below it for a while, there is at least a couple more days to the upside, at least one. Like, yeah, you do pull back a little bit, often, not always. But coming after such a long move to the downside, that closure above and like a retest of this trend line, which has held this whole thing up for ages, I think is a good sign. If we do bounce here, then I think it's actually going to go on a decent run. I don't know whether we'll hit new highs, but it should go on a decent run. This would be the first time I've ever seen, well, first time I've noticed a close above the 9 EMA on the daily and for it not to actually continue to the upside. It is very rare. I think there's this one here where it only closed below for one day, then above, then below, then basically took 2 days to get back above. That was a shakeout before breaking out of that range. Hopefully that's what we're going through now. It seems like a shakeout. Like it seems like the market is trying to get as many longs out of the system as possible before going up. And we had the same sort of thing in this area. There's this one here where it did bounce above and then come back below, and then it led to 3 more days of downside. But at the same time, this was kind of a shakeout area. I think we've already done the majority of the shakeout. You know, close above here, move to the upside. There was a little bit around the bottom here where it was a bit choppy. So, you know, we could do the same thing, but whenever it's done this, it hasn't lasted long. And I think the fact that we're at this key level and we have done it, if we do get a red day today, I would expect tomorrow to be positive. There's a lot of people have been shaken out of this market. There is one here, obviously, big downtrend, broke above, had another day above, and then pulled back again. That is a possibility, but I don't know. It seems like a different scenario. feels different to what it felt like back then, put it that way. Yeah, I guess there is a few examples where it chops and changes, but yeah, I don't know. Closing above that, where is it? Closing above this trend line, I think, has to hold some weight as well. A lot of those other times we weren't necessarily closing, like we hadn't hit these key trend lines yet. So yeah, I think hmm, I don't know. Still have to wait and see, but at least price action's kind of sideways consolidating at the moment. It looks like it's building to go up. It's still looking reasonably positive. It's hard to be positive when Bitcoin's, chopping around this much, but and his hourly doesn't look great. Looks like a rejection off that 50 EMA there. But momentum's to the upside. BBWP's reset. Bit of a nail biter for Bitcoin at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it does look like another rejection of that. It's just putting in a higher low here would be a good thing. We just need to get through, I think, this 50 EMA and then move to the upside. Be nice to get out of this range. It's bloody annoying. But global liquidity is still ticking up. S&P 500 is ticking up. Have a look at that in a sec. But yeah, the fact we've sort of bounced off that trend line again, at least if we can close above the point of control today, still be bullish. Be even better if we can close above the 9 again, or even the 13 there. Even better, we close above the value area high, but it's a little bit hopeful maybe. Ethereum needs to hold this trend line as well, and it could do that. Got pretty heavily rejected off that level of resistance there, and the 13 EMA actually seems to be rejecting it at the moment, both Bitcoin and Ethereum. But again, it still looks like a decent basing pattern. We got relatively low volume, relatively consistent volume through the bottom here too. That's a reasonable sign that we might be finding a bottom. Right, just come up and have a look at the Qs. So the Qs have actually broken out so far. If it closes somewhere around here, that's a new all-time high close on the Qs. On the equal weight, equal weight leading the way. That's actually important. The equal weight has been showing us the way, and yeah, that's a big close if it does it. And it looks like the normal Nasdaq wants to close above that trend line too. So I'm a little nervous that it's just recovering some of these vector candles here, but assuming nothing super bad comes out in the news, I kind of expect this to continue the upside tomorrow. Break above the trend line. on the futures. That's a good sign. Probably want to see it. You could actually see it down Friday, but as long as it's just a retest of this trend line, kind of expect next week to be up. The only thing is momentum's pretty high at the moment to the upside. Can stay up there for quite a while on big moves, but I am kind of expecting a blow off top in the next couple of weeks. Same thing on S&P 500 index. This is actually looks like the BBWP wants to expand as we're getting just into the bullish control zone again. It's going to have a bit of resistance potentially just up here. Like 6100 was a massive level, and we're above that now. That's potentially going to be positive gamma level, and so it means basically the options issuers are going to have to start buying it to cover the options that they've issued. So that can lead to a decent squeeze. Yeah, it looks like it's potentially what could happen here. Yeah, the ES has sort of broken that downtrend line as well. So the futures minis. Again, we could get pullbacks into that, like a retest that trend line. You'd kind of expect it to get up into this area first, to be honest, which would be a new all-time high. Equal weight. Equal weight's not really impressing very much, but equal weight running up into this level here would be a good thing for Bitcoin. I think it will probably get rejected from there, which would be below the high. So equal weight putting in a lower high wouldn't be great. So it's interesting that it's doing looks like it wants to do a new all-time high on the NASDAQ equal weight. IWM getting a bit of support here. With BBWP increasing, this is an interesting scenario. Momentum needs to shift to the upside tomorrow. So closure above this support resistance line here would be important for IWM. That would suggest the market is planning to go on a bigger move. XLI hasn't really broken this downward trend yet, so it's not, doesn't look as interested as the rest of the market, but it should follow through if we do get conviction on S&P and the NASDAQ. XLY, XLP is actually having a little bounce here, coming off pretty low momentum too. So bounce up into this level and a retest. So another couple of days to the upside, maybe into mid next week, and then a drop. That would be suggesting to me that we're getting close to the top on the markets, at least for the time being. XLP versus SPY still breaking out. Again, it could find some resistance here and bounce further to the downside. That'd be an interesting scenario, which would create more upside, but still kind of expect it to go a little bit higher here. Maybe one more day up. Equal weight XLY, XLP. We've had an update as well. Technically, I'd probably actually put it through there. Break of that trend line is probably going to be not great for markets. Then the equal weight XLP versus SPY is still breaking that trend line as well. This is the key one. This will suggest bigger downside to come, in my opinion, but this isn't great either. So it's just whether we can have another couple of days of up while Wall Street sells into retail. There's a lot of people buying the dips though at the moment still. Consumer staples equal weight is going to the upside, which is what you'd expect. This is looking like a double bottom here too, so yeah. Consumer discretionary is even looking like it's got a bit of strength here, so markets look like they want to actually keep going. Regional banking's still struggling though, and I would actually expect that to continue to the downside. The market may continue running despite what regional banks are doing. That could actually be the regional banks could be the trigger for a bigger pullback. Doesn't necessarily have to happen straight away though. Little bounce here on home construction and home builders. They're putting in a bit of divergence here as well. It's not divergence, but momentum's going in the same direction. Semis still looks like it didn't look like it yesterday. Things are choppy. Kind of still looks like it wants to go up and fill this gap at least and potentially pick up this vector candle here. And then we do have another gap a little bit higher than that it might fill as well. It's not a huge gap though. DJI gold is still struggling a little bit. Gold, I'm expecting a pullback on reasonably soon though. DJT gold, as we said, that's broken a key level. It's only really led to sideways at the moment, which is a bit weird, but I think that just shows us that we're part of a topping cycle at the moment. We're part of the sideways and potentially a little blow off top sort of scenario at the top of the cycle where Wall Street's just selling its bags to retail at the moment. Yeah, Dow Jones Transport is actually momentum is the upside. So the market should kind of follow, but expect swings pretty quickly in each direction here. VIX has actually broken that trend line at the moment to the downside. So there is another support level potentially somewhere in this region. That might not go for too long, but I have to wait and see. So interestingly, the skew actually came down yesterday, which it's been a pretty good read for what's going to happen in the next day for the last couple of weeks. But at the moment, it gave a false read based on the market being up nearly a full percent today. The 1 day is giving a better read though. So 1 day was to the upside and it's continuing to the upside. What's interesting here is it's the BBWP's reset on that. What you don't want to see is it going to the downside when BBWP is resetting and when it's breaking out. That could lead to a pretty big sell-off. At the moment though, you want to see this actually, the momentum shift to the upside, I think. I don't know how good a read this is, to be honest, but it's because this is freaking this is inverted. Yeah. Yeah, this is inverted. So it inverts this chart, it doesn't invert these charts. You have to actually invert that scale as well. Anyway, so at the moment, it does actually look like further upside is potentially likely. If we start getting up into these levels here, which have found significant resistance previously, then I'd suggest that's probably where it's going to turn around, and it's going to probably be a pretty big dip, but we can sort of chop sideways and up for a little bit, so just be aware of that too. DAX, holy shit, massive breakout on the DAX again. Finding a bit of resistance in the same sort of level that we hit previously on the Hang Seng. Not a huge surprise there. Pullbacks into this sort of region. Pullbacks into 20,600. Probably going to be met with a bit of buying, I suspect. It might just keep going to the upside here, though. It might actually break through that level. It can go on a pretty decent run. UK 100, a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle there. I wouldn't be too worried about that yet. Certainly well above that trend line. And there's probably another one here that it needs to try and hold. Yeah, I wouldn't say this is broken down yet, but yeah, it's still a good breakout. Depends where you measure this move too. Like I measured it off this sort of wedge pattern. And the breakout of that you could say that there's still a bit more to run on that, but if you measure it off, say just the vertical, there's sort of a channel in there, then we've probably gone past it. But so I think UK's probably still got a little bit more to run. Japanese market, it's grinding up, but it is headed up at least. If BBWP starts going to the upside, well, momentum's up to the upside, we could get at least a recovery of these vector candles. And again, just a recovery of them and not a new high would be a bad sign if we turned around at that point. TLT is going up. That's interesting. Very interesting, actually. High yield junk, just coming up into that resistance level again, that trend line. It's not a time, I don't think, to really be holding any major bags to the upside, expecting a lot of movement to the upside. Could be wrong. The breakout could be real, and we go on we finish off that 15% run that I talked about last week. I think it was last week anyway. This bond indicator was the one that was suggesting upside yesterday, though. I didn't believe it. I should have. So there's actually positive signs. A lot of the misalignment in indicators is now actually in alignment to the upside. 2-year yields is pulling back, but it's still potentially going to have some support here. So if the markets are going up and the yields are going up, then that's not going to be great. 10-year has pulled back though, off a resistance level. That's not a bad sign. Chinese 2 years still getting, the yields are still going up. 10 years, yeah, kind of grinding. Copper looks like it's finally going to try and hit this $4.85 level. Little surprised it didn't pull back a bit further after that big red day, but in the end, it was an inside candle. Yeah, looks like it could potentially actually go and reclaim this vector candle here. So another couple of days up, potentially on copper, if it gets through that resistance level. Gold looks like it's going to recover, at least recover this vector candle wick here. I have put in an order to sell most of my gold at this level. I think that's just a reasonably good spot to sell it. It's potentially going to go to 3,000, but I'm happy because I bought it down at, I think it was around, it was actually in around here where I bought most of it. So good profits on that. Yeah, hopefully it keeps going up today because my sell order is just about there. Gold versus silver. Silver's still struggling. It's at least going up and it's holding this trend line, but I think it may have its day after gold peaks by the look of it. Oil finding support off point of control again. Could be a good little double bottom here. A lot of people negative on oil at the moment. I mean, momentum is shifting to the downside here in the bearish control zone while BBWP is expanding a little bit. I guess that's a reasonably negative sign, and it hasn't broken through the value area high there, so we could get continuation to the downside. I guess this was a rejection off this trend line as well. I do have some oil holdings, which I've got another buy order set in here. So yeah, that's a potential target. We may get some more downside here. And then I'll probably order some more down at around the $5 mark on that one. Dixie's breaking down. That's actually a good sign for markets. US dollar is weaker, and it's sitting on a potential support level here, and a decent support level. So be careful of that. We haven't really properly broken down yet. But I think the fact that it's rejected off that level, we've broken this trend line at the moment. It may bounce and retest this, which could give us a retest of the breakout on the stock market as well tomorrow. But it could just keep going too. Like, this isn't a super strong trend line, but yeah, momentum's to the downside. BBWP is starting to expand a little bit. 104 is pretty decent target for the Dixie, I think. It might find some support around 105.4. Percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average. Hang on, we got another read on that yet? No. Just have that global liquidity is still grinding its way up. So that's a good sign. That's helping to support markets, and it should provide support for Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't tend to go up if global liquidity is going down. Home price index in the US is flattening out a little. Debt balance on credit cards is still going up. Just trying to look for a correlation there. There's not a great one. Debt balance on auto loans is at massive highs. Jesus. That could be an area that crashes big time. Percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average actually pulled back a little bit yesterday, but I would expect that to bounce today. Mag 7's actually at the moment, still under an hour to go, has actually reclaimed this trend line. Again, trend lines are regions, they're not exact, but it's closing above those fast moving averages as well. So at this stage, closing that area, again, it's going to suggest a bit of upside, which could be just short squeezes. Tesla found some support here out of nowhere. Tesla's potentially going to get some resistance around 380. That'll be an interesting spot for Tesla. Nvidia still grinding. It's above that trend line now, which is good. It retested it. Potentially going to find a little bit of resistance. There's a high volume area at 138, but I'm expecting it to get back up into here. And if Nvidia is doing that, then it's going to lift the rest of the market. What we're probably going to see is Nvidia keep going up into earnings. Earnings will disappoint, or they'll say something, or something will happen, and then that's going to potentially be the top. If we blow through this level, then that will be a blow off top on the markets in the making. Google's finding some support here. Not a bad level for Google. Google could actually go on a run and close these gaps as well at the same time as Nvidia doing it. BBWP is quite high, and it does look like it's turning around on momentum. So again, there's signs that the market actually does want to go higher. Microsoft, I don't expect Microsoft to get through this trend line, but it's suggesting upside. RK, wow. RK looked like yesterday it was going to, like even with that candle close, it actually looked like it was going to expand BBWP as we had momentum to the downside. But this is a big close. If RK keeps going up, that's actually suggesting risk on. And to break out of this trend line, that's a big level. I'd expect probably the next resistance is actually around 78. Oops. And again, that would suggest that we could go on a decent run. Even into 90 on RK over the next month or so. That seems ridiculous, but I guess when it seems ridiculous, that's kind of what the market will do a lot of the time. That's a positive sign for markets at the moment. Apple's getting a bid. Again, it might find some resistance soon. Reclaim this vector candle, but up against this previous trend line. Yeah, it's looking reasonable. 3M. 3M could actually just be building for another leg up here. Could be. Momentum's to the downside and BBWP is expanding, but that shifts with everything else in the market going up, and could be a decent run. Amazon hasn't reclaimed this trend line yet. I'd like to see it get back above that. It might be the loser over the next week or so, but Meta's still grinding to the upside. Still doesn't look like stopping yet. I think it's short squeezing a lot of people. It's probably in positive gamma as well. Airbnb actually continued to the upside. Earnings will be very interesting on this one. Very interesting. Earnings could actually take it to 147 and recover this vector candle here. That's a big coil though too, and it seems to be breaking out of this region. That's a lot of consolidation. So the breakout could be big. Airbnb could actually, it's a big target, but there is a gap fill up around 160. So not a bad stock this year, Airbnb, as opposed to a lot of the semis who have been crushed. AMD looks like it could go to the upside as well. Don't know why that trend line has moved. Needs to break out of that wedge. Whichever way it goes, it's probably going to go on a decent move. And if the rest of the market's going up, I'd expect AMD to go up. AVGO consolidating at the highs. CCI. ASML's going okay as well after earnings. So I'd expect that to actually ASML to come up into the 870 sort of level. But again, if we're going on a big buy off top in the markets, then there is a massive gap up here. TSM. Wow, Stellantis is breaking that trend line. Big volume day. Momentum's to the upside. Coming into earnings, what will be interesting if Stellantis comes up into this moving average for earnings, closes this gap, that's potentially going to be a pullback area, I would suggest. Ford, hopefully it can break back into this range. This could actually be, fuck, I don't know. If this is a Wyckoff accumulation and this was the, whatever it's called, where it just fakes out to the downside and gets back in the region, it could actually lead to a lot of upside on Ford up into the 1370 mark, which if that happens, I'd be very, like, you'd be expecting to put off the major high on the market until maybe October, November, somewhere around that. So there's some interesting stuff going on in the markets. The Aussie market made a new all-time high today. It's holding this trend line as well. Break below that trend line, and I'd say it's coming down pretty hard. But for the time being, it looks like the market wants to go up. Total crypto market cap is sort of shifting to the upside as well. Just grinding. People are still longing Ethereum versus BTC. Let's have a look where that chart actually is. Freaking hell. They are buying the dip on this pretty hard. It could turn, but geez, it doesn't look like it really wants to. Ethereum longs has pulled back quite a bit today, but so is the shorts on the market. So people are actually closing their shorts today by the look at that. That's not a bad sign. BTC longs are increasing on this dip again. There's some pretty significant buys going on here, so that's a good sign. Yeah, looking at it, there could be more downside. shorts are coming down, so they are closing out some of their shorts. Ethereum dominance is still in the toilet. Bitcoin dominance is pulling back a little. Probably going to find some support here, though, potentially. Maybe not. Just means that altcoins are potentially coiling, ready for a decent run compared to Bitcoin. I still think Bitcoin's got to go up for that to even happen. Just means that altcoins might run harder. So yeah, I'll have a quick look. Litecoin was an interesting one today. So Litecoin's got the daily momentum in its favor. BBWP is dropping back a little bit, but could just be a recovery of this vector candle. The wick, it did get smacked pretty hard. That's a pretty decent rejection candle there. After recovering this vector wick. I mean, momentum on CVD is kind of looks like it's switching to the downside at the moment. After potentially recovering this, it's at least half that vector's recovered. Just typically that's a pretty major reversal signal. It's just, if Bitcoin does make a move to the upside, I'd expect that to short squeeze a lot of people. Litecoin's been kind of doing its own thing lately, which was a good sign last time. Last time Bitcoin went on a decent run, Litecoin actually went before it. Yeah, Bitcoin needs to kind of have a decent move to the upside. That was a pretty major rejection there as well. Another decent reversal, but it hasn't led to a huge downside there. There are plenty of vectors above here to recover if we do want to move up. And look, a break above 96, like this 200 EMA on the 15 minutes, so the 50 on the 1 hour, would be quite positive for Bitcoin. It would get you above some pretty decent levels. So yeah, I'm still leaning towards upside here, but it's got some work to do, that's for sure. Getting a decent reset on the momentum on cumulative volume delta. Stochastic momentum's shifting to the upside. Well, it is to the upside. Like this here looks like just sweeps of longs, just getting rid of liquidations, like liquidation levels, preparing for a move to the upside. Bit of a short time frame Wyckoff accumulation potentially, and it's good that we haven't got any vectors on the way up here, but it really needs to close above this to be actually bullish. And then, of course, if we can get above this 800 EMA, that would be ideal. The other one, so similar deal on the total versus stables. Its momentum is certainly to the upside at the moment as well. I'm not seeing any major vector candles left behind, except to the upside. So again, if we're getting back into this level, I'd expect it to push through that pretty well. And this is a more definite higher low here on the total versus stables. So it's looking more like a basing formation. In fact, this bit here looks like a little W formation. it did sort of come back in and retest it, but it's also made that move. So what we want it to do is put in a big W formation here, pull up into there, pull back a little bit, and then go to the upside. That's what the bulls are looking for. The bears, you're just looking for basically breakdown, like rejection of these levels again. Another rejection, and I suspect that we would go to the downside, but this isn't suggesting that at the moment. To me, it's suggesting further upside. Have a quick look at Sol. So Sol's looking a lot more positive than Bitcoin even. A lot of the alts kind of can show you the way a little bit. Volume's been definitely heading to the upside on Sol from the bottom here. So cumulative volume delta, I mean. XRP is looking good. Not as big a pullback on XRP as well. Sui's looking like it's finding a base. It's good. Hype looks like it's potentially breaking out. Another sort of want to see this V-shaped recovery on H-bar as well. H-bar's probably got the most work to do out of all of them, but even Vine's getting a bid. Vine's been smashed over the last couple of weeks, so yeah. I mean, it looks more positive on a lot of the alts than it does on Bitcoin, which I think is actually a good sign for Bitcoin. CME looking very similar to the standard Bitcoin, but just looking at CME on the daily. Again, it's kind of, it did open above the 9 EMA, but I don't want to see it move up and close above it. Certainly not not the worst look at the moment. Momentum is shifting a little bit. It's at least flattening out. And BBWP is expanding a little bit, so I wouldn't say that's looking super negative at the moment. So yeah, I guess closure above the point of control at least would be handy, but closure above probably around 97. Yeah, we may actually close below the 9 EMA today, unless it goes on a pretty decent run. Closures above it, I think it's upside. Closures below, it's still kind of a coin flip, but definitely looking a bit more positive on the shorter time frames, especially if we can get through that 200 EMA there on the 15-minute. Which it doesn't look like it exactly wants to at the moment, but it has. It's just like this is the third time it's tried to break the 50 EMA, so pull back into the 50 EMA and then move to the upside. Straight through the 200 EMA, pull back into the 200 EMA on the 15-minute, and then move to the upside again would be reasonably bullish. Whoa. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'll catch you later.